1998. That is the year Bashar Sayed, my co-host, was born. And that is the last time South Africa has ever won an ICC trophy. They've come close. 10 times semifinals. Also a final in there that our Indian friends will remember very much so, because it was quite a long time for them to win anything as well. And now we're at a point where Themba Bavuma, leading a man of 11, man of 15, down on the Lord's pitch. Aiden Markram, Irfan Dunejo lookalike, our very own, fan of the podcast, friend of the podcast. It all comes down to this. South Africa are now world test champions. An insane feat. ICC winners. The most latest ICC Champions Trophy, the most latest ICC trophy to be won by a team is South Africa, led by the man himself, Themba Bavuma. With me, my Themba Bavuma, as I am the Aiden Markram of this podcast, is Bashar Sayed. Bashar Sayed, welcome back to the podcast. How are you feeling, buddy?
Oh, Themba Bavuma. Oh, Themba Bavuma. 9,722 days since the last time South Africa had their hands on any sort of ICC silverware. It almost feels like this is the year that the trophy droughts are ending across the world in cricket. And some would just say maybe even beyond cricket and into sports. Hobart Hurricanes won their first Big Bash in 12 years. RCB won their first ever IPL title to match Virat Kohli's shirt number 18 years.
Virat Kohli and Sohail Tanvir have the same amount of IPLs.
And Kamran Akmal.
And
Legends.
Legends.
South Africa have also managed to win an ICC trophy. It's not Graeme Smith. It's not David de Villiers.
It definitely isn't Graeme Swan. I can attest that.
It's Themba Bavuma who lifts the ICC mace.
What a guy.
He points it almost as a rocket launcher towards all the haters.
So on this podcast.
What a moment.
What a moment. I appreciate everything that Themba Bavuma is doing to revive Test cricket. I think, in my humble opinion, this win was not only important for the South African culture and their fandom and whatever they stand for in the world of cricket / Test cricket, but it is very important for Test cricket itself. These 4 days, Bashar, 3.5 days, were the most riveting cricket that I have seen in ages. And that's coming from a neutral fan. Maybe I lean 60-40 towards South Africa, but still, I just wanted a good game. And this is exactly what I got. You had the entire cricketing world's eyeballs on this 3.5 day white shirted red ball test match. And everybody from the crowd to the commentators to the fans who were watching and following this along had just tuned in and zeroed in. And it was a beautiful sight to see. And not only that, it is absolutely important that a trophy like this goes to a team that is not part of the big three, that does not have the names India, England, or Australia in them. I think that is the most important feat that Themba Bavuma was able to do, because that gives hopes to the other nations, the Pakistans, the Bangladeshes, the Sri Lankas, the New Zealands that can come out and be like, you know what? We may not be the 3 richest boards in the world, but this is still something that we can attain. And it just brings more interest back into the game, because honestly, the past 10 years, it's getting kind of stale seeing the same 3 teams come out in the top. And I'm just glad that somebody else was able to break the mold.
Yeah, Test cricket happening at Lord's, an ICC final. This is what you dream of as a kid. And so I can only imagine what someone like a KG Rabada or an Aiden Markram would be thinking, because their names also go on the home side's honors board, because Australia was given the away dressing room, and then South Africa was the home dressing room. So it's just phenomenal. I think there's been lots of discussions on having the World Test Championship final at a neutral venue. And I don't think any other country could replicate the level of crowd attendance that the UK, the Lords, have given us in the past few days.
Not even the UK, specifically Lords.
Because of their love for Test cricket. I mean, a test match happening there with neither England playing nor an Ashes test happening, and they're still churning up in huge numbers to support.
Day 3, day 4 sold out, I believe. When our cousin Saad was in London, just landed like 2 days before, the final day, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to check out the last day, and he wasn't able to get any tickets because it was completely sold out. And I agree. I don't think any place in the world would be able to pull out a crowd like that. Actually, I think Lords is like the perfect size. It's like 35,000 people. And, maybe that amount of people might come out in Australia, maybe Melbourne, but even 30,000 people in 90,000 seated stadiums looks like a third. And that's the thing, right? It's like you can have even 15, 20,000 people in the stadium, but it looks full because of the capacity margins. And not only that, a lot of South Africans flew in. It's Cape Town to London. It's one flight. A lot of South Africans flew in. A lot of locals there already. It's the hub of the world. It's one of the biggest cities in the entire world. It's the place for this final to happen. And I'm glad that BCCI did make an attempt to move the next WTC final in Ahmedabad. I'm just glad that was not gone through and was rejected. So I'm okay. I'm all favors for Lords hosting this for years to come.
Look, I was supporting South Africa, and I know there's been lots of question marks on how they made this final. Who did they face? Where did they face him? What sort of oppositions were they up against? And I think they beat Bangladesh, then they beat Sri Lanka and South Africa, then they beat Pakistan and South Africa. And they essentially won 7 games on the bounce. And also credits to India losing 3-0 to New Zealand at home, which really helped make a case for them.
Shout out India.
Yeah.
Good work.
Which that ultimately helped make them get into the finals. And whatever can be said, they've beaten the best team across this whole World Test Championship cycle in the finals at a neutral venue. So I think they are the deserved champions. The only thing that I would have against this World Test Championship final, I would love to have maybe a 3-match series to determine who the finalists are. I love it when in basketball or baseball, they have like a 7-match series to determine the finalists. I think ODIs, T20s, okay, a 1-match thing is cool because you're playing one-match games in the whole tournament. But this World Test Championship final, you're playing series across a 2-year cycle, and then you only have a 1 match to determine the champions.
I'm all there for you. I think this test match has proven how much more exciting a series would have been. Have all 3 games play at the Lords. That's I'm all for that. But just imagine the vigor in the South African crowd if it was like 1-0 up, and then the second test match happens, and then there's days where it's a grind. And the thing with test match cricket, which makes it so pure, and just for the purists out there who listen to this podcast and who are on our Patreon or our Discord, they know how much it means to have that series, man. Have that. The Ashes is a series. You don't just win one test and call it the Ashes. The BGT series, it's a 5-match. It's like, it's a month of just complete engrossment of every inch of your cricketing mind being engrossed into this thing. And I think this World Test Championship at least warrants a 3-match series. Not only does it hype up and spice up the game, but it creates more interest. And in terms of having eyeballs and having revenue generation and having those media rights sold, I think that also promotes the game and promotes the dollars, the influx of it into the game. So I'm all for a 3-match series. I think imagine 2 more matches after the Bashar and then 1-1 draw, 3rd match. Like, it would have been insane. Like that. I'm just imagining the fervor around this, and just that is giving me goosebumps. So hopefully that is an amendment that comes in forward. But the way that these cricket cycles are structured right now, getting a 3-match test series in June, it's tough because right now, as the South Africa versus Australia Lords game was happening, there was India waiting in the shadows with their A team, playing the English Lions somewhere in the UK. They have a 5-match test series that might be, quote unquote, more important in terms of revenue generation, in terms of ad marketing and sales. And that's just like the world that we live in. So what do you tell India? Wait a month?
Not even that. There's the MLC happening in the US. There is the Vitality Blast happening in the UK. There is the 100 scheduled to happen in a couple of months. So just the entire cricket calendar is so crammed up. I can't even imagine what it's like being a pro player right now, because one day you're here playing this league, next day you're on international duty, and it's just so complicated. And so for the ICC to even find a window to have a test match final where it's not coinciding with other international series is commendable. But
I mean, you could take 3 weeks off, man. That's what I'm saying. You just need 3 weeks to have 3 test matches. Most of these test matches don't even go into the 5th day. I mean, I think I was reading a stat by Mazhar showed that in this entire cycle, only 2 test matches went into the 5th day. That insane stat, by the way. Which is telling me 2 things. A, the game is getting faster, so 3.5, 4 days is more than enough for you to get a result, which I'm all in for. I think test matches in that length, that 3.5, 4 day length that's the sweet spot for me. But not only that, you get an extra day to chill out and recoup. But you can have 4-day test matches in a span of 3 weeks and see who the winner is. Because I'm not taking anything away from South Africa. I do believe they were the better team. The chase, we'll come to the chase in a minute. But the way that they were able to orchestrate that 4th innings chase, it was just butter and a warm knife through all in all. It was so amazing to see. But I would have just loved to see that push and pull that happens in a test match series where you go 1 up and then you go 1 all, and then you go 2-1 up and then you go 2-2 all, and then you go 3-2, boom, then your team comes back.
And the story is developing as the series progresses. Players are getting tired, ballers are getting fatigued, and they're just pushing and they're toiling. And that's what I think makes a good test series. And we look back at some of the greatest test series that happened, the 05 Ashes, the BGTs that happened in the past
Pakistan
years.
series in the mid-2000s, like those were all extremely this competitiveness to the max, right?
Yeah.
And so this warrants, the final at least warrants some sort of push and pull like that. But yeah, I don't want to take anything away from South Africa. Also, I want to just quickly point out on the test cycle of it all, I don't think it's South Africa's fault that they were able to play quote unquote weaker teams or play a lot more weaker teams at home and win 7 on the trot and make themselves into the final. Because that's just anybody, there was a bunch of ICC officials in Lords for 4.5 days. Nobody can sit me down and explain exactly how this thing works. So what's the point of South Africa even trying to quote unquote play the game fairly if they can just sort of, I don't want to even say hack it, but just schedule the games in their favor and have as many series at home as possible with as many weak teams as possible and make their way into the finals.
I'll tell you something crazy about scheduling. South Africa has no home tests in this upcoming home summer. So they're just going abroad and playing other teams there. The next home series, though, I think the 2026-2027 cycle, they're playing England and Australia. And then they have the ODI World Cup scheduled to happen there. So this upcoming summer is going to be dry for them. But the one after that is going to be pretty packed. So again, just the scheduling of it all is not consistent. And yeah, I agree with you. You can't complain or you can't blame South Africa for having this scheduling or facing these oppositions in these conditions. That's just how the scheduling happens here. Let's get into the match. I think we've been talking a lot about what's happened, how it's happened. And I would love to get into a bit of detail on how things worked out. Before this match, South Africa hired Stuart Broad as their fast bowling consultant to help Rabada, Ngidi, Mulder to get acclimatized with the conditions of bowling at Lords. And lo and behold.
You think Broad took a fee for that? Or it was like, oh, against the Australians, I'll do it pro bono.
He probably took a fee for that.
No, I think
and then he was also commentating on the actual match.
I think it's all for the love of the game, quote unquote. Anything to destroy the Australians. That's the vibe. And I think I was looking at like the memes out of this is insane, right? I was looking at one of the memes and it said, you can always find an Englishman at the downfall of an Australian. And they showed a picture of Chris Broad. And I was a bit confused. And
Stuart Broad.
Yeah, sorry, Stuart Broad. Chris Broad as well. Why not? Match referee. Without Chris Broad, you don't get Stuart Broad, by the way. So I'm just letting you know.
That is how biology works.
That is true. That is how science works. And so I was just like happy about the way that South Africa was able to not only acclimatize to the environments, because it is, I feel like South Africa, England, Australia, they have the similar pitches, the Sena countries, as we say, have similar pitches in terms of bounce and variation. And so KG Rabada and Ngidi and Janssen would just be lethal. And they were able to talk to the guy who's taken one of the most wickets ever in those pitches. And I think whatever Brody told them, it worked out, man. Because boy, Janssen and Rabada were just looking on song the entire series.
Rabada gave Usman Khwaja, our boy, alumni of the pod, a 20-ball duck. He just looked
Did you text him? Did you text Uzi?
I don't. I tried
Should we?
I tried not to talk to players before series. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give them any added pressure.
Yeah. You think you're texting Uzi
no.
to give
if they do well, I will congratulate them. But if they're going through a bad phase or if they're not performing or if there's games coming up, I like to avoid any sort of contact there.
You heard it here, guys. When we talk to players before series, backward point does give added pressure to the players. That's why we stay away from player talk.
One thing that was kind of surprising for me is that both Australia and England chose to play a fast bowling all-rounder at number 3. Australia with Cameron Green, who was playing his first test match back after a back injury, and South Africa, who played Wian Mulder at number 3. Both of these guys are quite inexperienced at number 3, and in these conditions, I think they were just put up against a very good attack to try and navigate their way through. Australia, though, got to 2-1-2. Shout out to Steve Smith. Absolute clutch for Australia. He, in these conditions at the UK, at Lords specifically, he is a master of batting. Support by Alex Carey, Bo Webster, got to a nice total. But Rabada, Pfeiffer, on his first game back from that drug test, he failed.
What happened to that? I totally missed that.
Rabada last month failed the drug test and he tested positive for having
Toffees?
Cocaine.
Sour Patch Kids? Sorry, what?
Cocaine.
What?
The white stuff.
The white stuff? The thing? What do you mean? No way. Rabada with cocaine?
KG Rabada with cocaine.
Yo, that's why he lights it up. That's why he lights it up on the pitch.
The sub-tweets that I've been seeing online about Rabada and cocaine is just hilarious.
And these are facts that it was, as the kids call it, sugar burger. It was actually that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
This is why you should never give Rabada a sniff. Once he gets that sniff, oh he will rip through the tail.
Oh, the doping. Man, Rabada can play the WTC final with testing positive for cocaine, and you banned my boy Muhammad Asif.
Double
2007,
standards.
2007, 2008. Guys, anybody?
I think if you test Muhammad Asif today,
you might find something.
You might find him positive for multiple things.
Okay. My boy is just always living life to the fullest. No judgment to Rabada. I think Rabada was just having a good time. I mean, America makes most of its money in the 80s with cocaine. You've seen Wolf of Wall Street, I believe. You understand how that works. So, hey, we're not here to judge, but that's what the case was. So apparently he comes back. I thought he was going to get a lot more sledging than he did because of that. I think that's just fodder for the Australians. But I think they held restraint because I feel like a few of them were also under the influence.
I think the Aussies have gotten nicer on Pat Cummins. They used to be a lot more lethal back in the day, but I think these just have a nice guy side to them now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure back in the day, if it was Ponting or Clark, Andrew Simon,
we would have heard they
would have made sure Kagiso knows what's fielded for.
Yeah. What are we smelling?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the first innings came in. I thought that they were able to wrap this up quickly, but 212 was on the board. 14 wickets fell on that first day, Bashar, and then 14 again on the second day.
I thought the batting conditions the first couple of days were tough.
Was it batting condition or was it just shot selection? And because they were batting at 3.7 and over, both these guys.
Look, in the UK, when it's overcast, it's proven that it is harder to bat there because you get a lot more movement in the air, off the pitch. They're also playing with the Duke's ball because in the UK and I believe in Ireland and the West Indies, they always play with a Duke's ball. The Duke's ball seems more, it swings more.
Even in the West Indies?
Yeah.
Okay.
The West Indies also uses the Duke's ball.
Interesting.
And I think India uses an SG ball, which is India made. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how those dynamics play. But both South Africa and Australia are far more accustomed to playing with the Kookaburra ball, which is machine made. It's a lot more, I guess, it swings more conventionally.
Yeah, and it wears off easily as well. The Duke's ball has that hand-sewn seam into it. And we've seen this is my opium, honestly, or cocaine, I should say, the theme of the podcast. I just love looking at bats being made, a lot of Gray Nichols documentaries, a lot of Duke's documentaries, hand-stitched stuff. It's just, it feeds me. I'm also 45 years old now and a father of 4. I feel like.
I also feel like South Africa in that in their first innings went into their shell. Wian Mulder absolutely had no intentions of scoring any runs.
44
if
off
you
6.
Even compare
6 off 44.
The scoring rates of Australia and South Africa in their first innings. Australia scored at 3.74 and over, and South Africa was at 2.41. So They just went into their shell. And when you're not looking to score runs, when you're just blocking, there's that one ball that is eventually going to get out there and get you out with.
Why do you think, what thought process was that? I mean, that's where I was kind of being critical of Temba Bavuma, which I was like, I think his timid mindset is like leading them astray, because 84 ball 36, and then you get David Bettingham in here with 111 balls played, only scores 45%. He was on the pitch for 158 minutes. Both Bavuma and Bettingham were both on the pitch for over 2 hours, and they were only able to score collectively like 80 runs.
I think they were up against a really good attack.
Yeah, fair enough.
Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Lyon. This is the 4-pronged bowling attack. They've got over 1.5k test wickets amongst them. Last year, they became the first ever bowling attack to have 250 plus test wickets amongst all of them. And I think now, closely towards the next Ashes, they might become the first ever bowling attack to have 300 plus wickets amongst all 4 of them.
Pop trivia. How many test matches do you think Nathan Lyon has played?
123.
137.
137.
Nathan Lyon. 137. Very famous moment from somebody's on the door, I guess. Very famous moment from the Battafas podcast, where Amar Naqvi was questioning, will anyone ever remember Nathan Lyon in 10 years like the way they do remember Shane Warne? Because Nathan Lyon sits at 137 tests and 553 wickets.
I think that's nothing to take away from Nathan Lyon. He's a good bowler. I mean, to take test wickets in any format, I think it's commendable.
You heard it here first, a backward point. Nathan Lyon.
You know what's more crazy? Joe Root and Kane Williamson. I think Joe Root debuted a couple of years after Kane Williamson, and the disparity between both of their test matches is absolutely insane. I think Joe Root's like 150 plus tests. Can you check? And then Williamson is like barely over 100 test matches. So it just shows how many more test matches Joe Root has played in a lesser period of time.
153 for Joe Root. 13,000 runs.
Yeah, I think Joe Root's on track to surpassing Sachin's record of 15,000 test runs.
Yeah. He's averaging 50. Man's a beast in test matches. And then Kane Williamson, you said. Let me just double check that. I think you're right. I saw this in a podcast somewhere. Maybe it was Pro Sports. They talk about this the disparity between the two tests. 105 for Kane Williamson.
Insane.
9,200 runs for him. So, yep. The first and second innings happened, and honestly, you look back and you're like, yeah, it was a good run for South Africa. They made it to the final, but they're South Africa. They're going to probably end up on the bottom again, get the shorter end of the stick. That's just how life works for a South African cricket fan. And then third innings happened, and you're just like, oh my God, I think South Africa might be able to pull this back, until that partnership near the end. Do you think, what was it that made Australia score those extra runs near the end, back end? Because we were thinking at some point that if South Africa make 175, this could be interesting. An interesting chase, and they ended up at 282.
At one point, Australia was 73 for 7, and I think what changed is the sun. The clouds went away, the sun came out, and it dried up the Lord's pitch. And when Stark and Hazelwood go out there and put up runs, that's when you know how flat this pitch is and how much more batting friendly it's become over the course of this test match. So at one point, yes, it was puzzling that South Africa is not able to clean up Stark and Hazelwood. They put up a pretty good partnership towards the end. And at the same time, you were like, okay, but this is turning out to be a more batting friendly pitch at this time of the day. And 282 in the fourth innings at Lord's against that 4-prong pace attack of Australia. Can South Africa chase it down? They've been known for that one big C word that is attached to them, chokers. But they overcome it and they become champions.
I have another trivia for you. Mitchell Stark scored 58 runs here. I think he was not out, which kind of shocked me. And then I went to see his test match batting record. Do you know how many runs he scored in test matches?
2,500.
2,200. And you know how many 50s he has?
11.
Dang. Guy quick infoed him before
batting average 20.6.
This guy quick infoed him before I did. 20.5, by the way. I was just shocked. I didn't know Mitchell Stark.
Highest scored 98.
I feel like Shaq. I was like, sorry, I wasn't aware of your game like that. Mitchell Stark 58 not out, kind of stealing the game away, I should say, from South Africa. And when I saw this, I was like, hey, Mr. Stark's going to be man of the match. I called it. I was like, Mr. Stark's going to be man of the match. I think he took like, what did he take? He took 2 in the first innings, and then he comes out, scores a 50, and I'm like, he's going to take a 5 in the 4th innings and just end this whole thing and become man of the match. But yikes.
Australia's tail can all bat. Pat Cummins, the batting average like 17. Nathan Lyon can bat. He has a test 50. And Josh Hazelwood also can have like an 11 average. So they can all come in and cause problems if you don't get them out early. And I think that's a sign of teams taking their tail under batting quite seriously, because those extra runs between Pat Cummins, Stark, Lyon, and Hazelwood eventually sort of made the game interesting.
There was about 70 runs there, about 60, 70 odd runs. Another question, Bashar. Did you actually quick info Mitchell Stark?
I did.
What's his high score?
98.
99. Boom.
99? Oh, wow.
That's what it is. That's where it is.
Really? 99?
That's what it says on the Indian-owned ESPN cricket. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's what it says. So I'm not sure about that. But 58 not out, 100 runs. KG Rabada 4 again. And then it happened. The chase. Ryan Riggleton went early. 9 for 1. 2.1 overs. Stark, that's where I thought Stark was going to get 5 for here. I was like, he's bowling rapid. The rock is coming in. The pitch, even though you say it's baked and it's getting flatter, but Stark is Stark. But man, Aiden Markram, holy crap.
Innings of a lifetime.
He
was on a pair. He got off for a duck in the first innings. So he's coming in, 4th innings, probably one of their most still up and coming emerging batters that they look up to come in and score runs. And he's on a pair, goes on to score a magnificent century, probably a career-defining century. Because I've said this before in a clip I made for Yunus Khan, that scoring runs in test matches is hard, but scoring runs in the 4th innings of a test match is far more harder, just because of how much toil you've been through in the past 3-4 days before this innings. And to think that he was on a pair, to think that this is an ICC final, you're playing at Lords against probably the best bowling attack in test cricket right now.
And you know the legacy of your team. You know what they're going to say. You know what they're already saying when it comes to 282 on the board, and you're opening, you're on a pair. And Aiden Markram, man, the grit, the resilience that he showed, this is exactly what test cricket is made of. And he knows that he has the stardust of all those players that have come before him. And he took that in stride, and he saw Graham Smith in the stands and A.B. de Villiers and all the legends of the game. And he just took that in stride. And honestly, I'm glad for him, because he's gotten a lot of flack recently in the past few years, in the white ball format as well. Hey, Aiden Markram might just be a bust. He might be stylish and might have that head still and all that, but he's not able to make those runs, especially valuable runs on the back end of an innings. And having 4th innings century, chasing now in a final, because this wasn't ever a case before, but now this is a do or die situation. This is the highest level of grit and poise you're going to show as a batsman. And Aiden Markram checked all those boxes for me, man. What an innings.
People said a lot of things about Markram, but Aiden Markram, the Irfan Juneja lookalike, said SNKO. Sar niche kaam upar.
He did.
Aiden Markram said, scenes kuch aise hain, and he showed us a 4th innings 100 at Lords.
I did send all the screenshots of tweets and funny things I could find about Aiden Markram looking at Irfan Juneja to Irfan Juneja. And man has a sense of humor about it. He enjoyed it thoroughly. I don't know, but he has, I don't know his opinions on the Aiden Markram innings. I wish we had a still of him, maybe like a 3-minute video of him just talking about his opinion on Aiden Markram. I think that'd be hilarious. But as it stands, I think that 136 will go down in at least WTC history as one of the great innings of this test cycle. And just pressure and poise. So poise under pressure is what I was trying to say.
Pressure? What pressure?
Exactly. I was going to come to that, about how the ICC marketing team has been amazing with the sounds that they've been making. They know how to capitalize on social media clicks and all that. And Aiden Markram, good sport all about it, gives them all the content they need to make this stuff go viral. And it was just all around fun times for me as a viewer. I did get a bit hesitant in day 4 when Bavuma went out earlier, but Benningham and Markram held it down, and honestly, so happy for them.
You can't talk about Markram without talking about Bavuma because he toiled through a hamstring injury that he was having. He could barely run. He was sort of forced to stay on the crease, play up his shots, hit the gaps, and look to hit boundaries. He missed out on threes, but he was pretty quick to run those twos. And that partnership between Markram and Bavuma was the one that just sealed the game for them. Bavuma was asked to go off the field. He was risking potentially the next few months of his career. And Bavuma, as the leader that he is, undefeated in his test captaincy, says, no, I'm going to stay on here. I'm going to make sure I put up a partnership with Markram and I take the Proteas closer to a ICC trophy.
147 runs off 250 deliveries, 66 of those runs with Temba Bavuma in there. We talked about the Lord's crowd, the English crowd there. Honestly, the songs that they make, you've heard them all in the football anthems and all that, but this was the first time, at least for me as a cricket fan, seeing, the Bavuma Army is famous for making those borderline offensive songs for the Australians during the Ashes, but the songs that we quoted earlier, there's one for Aiden Markram as well, to that song, I love you, baby. The Aiden Markram song, the Temba Bavuma song, there was a Rabada song as well in there. As a crowd, electrified as it was, really helped. And you can sense that this is a fandom that's been hungry for wins like this, especially ICC wins, and they were able to pull this off with some of the best. I think all these players will go down as some of the greats in South African cricket. With AB de Villiers, Graeme Smith, your boy Stain, all those guys.
My boy?
Some of the greats. You love Stain. What do you mean? He's not your boy?
Stain gun, yeah.
Suddenly Stain is not your boy?
He's my boy.
He's your boy. There we go.
Day 4, South Africa needed like 70 odd runs overnight. And I think everybody who is a fan of cricket and South Africa was nervous. Given the C word attached to South Africa, they were...
You have to like at this point.
Chokers.
Yes, thank you. Say that. Because
they're known as chokers.
You call them something else.
The C word is, the chokers.
Right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
So a lot of people are probably very nervous on how they will go about their chase. They did lose a couple of early wickets, and I think there was a lot of nerves in the dressing room. The post-match interviews show how a lot of guys did not want to go out there in bad. They were hoping that whoever's on the crease finishes the job. But ultimately, we got, I think, was it Kyle Varren, who hit the winning runs off of Mitchell Starc, and they got over the line. And
when it comes to shots that you hit to seal the game, a final especially, not the most aesthetic.
Off the toe of the bat. But in the gap. Effective.
Reminds me of like that Pakistan win against Sri Lanka in the final of the T20 2020 World Cup. After they played a great knock, but again, not really satisfying. You know what? You can't really play that over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Even Glenn Maxwell in the ODI World Cup, right? Just hits a ball towards deep square leg.
Yeah.
Runs a double. Wins,
Like
you can't get more iconic than Dhoni against Sri Lanka.
I was just going to say.
That 6 to seal the deal in Mumbai.
That's like you replay it over and over again. Same thing with Pakistan against England in 1992 when they caught that. When like Imran Khan bowling, Rami Hazard catching, that's iconic as well. Like brilliant end. The captain finishing it off. I forget how the match ends in 2017 Champions Trophy for Pakistan. Who catches that?
Hassan Ali short ball to Bumrah, skies it. Sarfaraz catches it.
Yeah, there we go. Again, another iconic because captain involved. I just thought that was just okay. Mid ending to a great test match.
I think Kyle Varren did try to lap him for a boundary.
I saw that.
Which he nicked, but Australia was out of reviews and it was given not out.
Yeah.
Just like looking at the larger scope of this win, the South Africans had their families in the crowd. They had their friends in the crowd. Saw a visual of Aiden Markram jumping over the boundary and having a pint of beer from what looked like a random member in the crowd, but turns out it was his childhood friend from school. And people like that flew out to support South Africa. And it felt like it was just a larger than life moment. Graeme Smith in there, AB de Villiers, Sean Pollock calling this win, these legends and greats of South African cricket being part of this.
Yeah, honestly, it was great. I understand why they allowed Sean Pollock to call that last delivery. I would just love Ian Smith or Nasser Hussain in there. I think they just when it comes to the gravitas of the moment. They have just a little bit more experience, but no shouts at Sean Pollock. He's great, but yeah, I think it was just lovely to see that the whole nation, and right now they're going through a lot internally. I don't know if you follow the news at all, but they're going through their own fair share of deals. And I love Temba Bavuma's unifying message at the end, being like, "Hey, if you're black, you're white, doesn't matter. Right now, you're South African, and you're rejoicing."
Isn't that what Michael Jackson said?
Wait.
It don't matter.
another contentious figure in pop music.
It
Michael
don't
Jackson.
matter if you're black or white.
Yeah, he did say that. It just a great turnaround for them to a contentious WTC cycle, just in general. I do want to look forward to the next cycle because the next cycle has already been announced. Again, trivia for people playing at home. How many games do you think the number one team has? Who's the number one team playing the most games in the next WTC cycle?
Zimbabwe.
Probably they're playing 10 this year, but they're not even part of the cycle. It's only the top 9.
Right.
So Afghanistan, Ireland, Zimbabwe, not part.
I would say England because they're playing 5 against India. Then they have the Ashes at the end of the year.
Close. They're playing 21. England is. Australia's playing 22. And Pakistan's playing 13.
Not bad.
In 2 years.
Not bad.
Upsetting to me, honestly. I think that's a disgrace, but here we are. They're the second lowest, right behind Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has 12. And believe it or not, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are on the same pedestal. West Indies has more test matches than Pakistan.
But Pakistan finished at number 9 of this World Test Championship table.
Barely making it.
Yeah. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka finished higher than Pakistan.
So how are like Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, and Ireland supposed to make it to the top 9? Like just ranking wise, or is that how it is?
I wish I could tell you.
No one knows. Is it the deal? I think Australia play England, Ashes 5 matches there, and then India 5 matches there away.
They're also going to West Indies in next week.
Yeah, so those are just starts right away. Pakistan, I think I don't understand why Pakistan's not a really interesting series, but they're like capped. So they play South Africa 2 test matches. Why? I don't know. Just fit another one there. You're already there.
But who's watching it, right? Who's coming to watch in the stadium? Who's watching it on TV? It's the broadcast rights. It's the revenue thing. Unless the big 3 don't play each other or other teams, nobody's really watching it. That's just the reality.
Then if you're playing a big 3 team like Australia or England, because you don't play India anymore, just have 5 matches there. But no, you have 3 against England, which is the most that you're having. And that's it. And then you're having 2 against Sri Lanka, South Africa, New Zealand, Bangladesh, West Indies. Like, speaking of Pakistan's POV for the next WTC cycle, if they just play like they are sort of playing near the end of this WTC cycle, maybe there's a chance. Because the only team that I'm kind of scared of is maybe England and New Zealand. But other teams, Pakistan should be able to defeat. Also, their home schedule is South Africa, Sri Lanka, and New Zealand. They're playing them at home. So they should be able to get something.
Pakistan, by the way, bottled the opportunity to make the World Test Championship final because they had a home series against Bangladesh, which they lost 2-0. Then they had a home series against England, which they won 2-1. And then they beat West Indies 2-0. So if they had won
1-1.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad, sorry, 1-1. So if they had won those series convincingly, they could have made a case.
Made a run for it. Yeah.
Basically,
the run that South Africa made, Pakistan had the potential to make that run near the end if they just play their cards right, but they didn't know that you're supposed to heat up the pitch.
I would have loved to see Khurram Shahzad in the World Test Championship final.
My God. Would have been amazing, eh?
And give me Kashif Ali. Give me Numan Ali against Steve Smith.
Oh my God. What a wild.
Sajid Khan staring into Marnus Labuschagne.
Here, can I give you one more?
What?
4th inning century like Aiden Markram by Babar Azam for the chase.
And that's when you wake up.
That's when you wake up. The future is looking great. I think that the WTC cycle starts immediately. Is Pakistan playing 2 test matches in West Indies right after the ODIs and T20s? Is that how it is?
I don't think they're playing test matches there.
They have them scheduled away 2 test matches in this table that I'm seeing, but maybe it's later on.
Yeah, probably sometime later. Yeah.
Because they have England on this series as well, and that series has not been announced per se or any dates.
Pakistan is touring England next year, I believe.
I'm assuming that that's when that happens. Probably a big 1.5, 2 month tour with 3 T20s, maybe more T20s, maybe more ODIs because it's an ODI season as well, and then 3 tests as well. I was on the Patreon chat and the boys and girl Razia on the Patreon chat we're talking about, hey, maybe we should make like a Patreon, like a backward point trip to England for the Test match series. Lovely idea. I don't hate the idea. I think there might be some merit to it. And as things get announced, maybe we'll announce something too.
Backward Point Army tour to the
BP
UK.
Army. BP
We'll have
Army.
our own stand.
Yeah.
We'll have our own songs, signage.
Yeah, totally. A lot of Coke Studio songs for us.
Coke what?
Studio. Oh,
Okay.
No, my bad. KG Rabada, guys, ladies and gentlemen. We forgot to talk about. We talked about the home of cricket so much in this podcast. We forgot to talk about Canada's home of cricket, which I think you should enlighten the fans and the viewers, especially South Africans, if you're here first. I don't know if you guys can veil this, but it's a good message.
Like you mentioned, Lords is the home of cricket. Yashi Sports is Canada's home of cricket, and they are the go-to spot if you're North America looking to purchase cricket equipment. They've got a large array of sporting goods that you can buy.
Large array, yes.
Very large array. And you can go to their website, yashisports.com. You can use the code BP10 for an exclusive 10% off your purchase. Canada's GST is 13%. So that 10% code from BP10 helps offset those taxes.
As well as, I'm just going to give a shout out to Sendwave, who has been sponsoring a lot of this podcast, a lot of the big episodes. If you listen to Elite Rain podcast, sponsored by Sendwave. And then there's 2 big podcasts coming down the road. We have a few more scheduled with some really big players. Can't name them, but because ever since we opened the virtual window, we're just taking all the big names that we can. And there's a few down the road. The one that I can't talk about, the one that's recorded, edited in the can on the unlisted section of YouTube Studios. Vishar's shaking his head because it's not, but it will be in a few days. But it is edited. Toby Marriott from Cricket District is on the podcast, Vishar. Do you remember this? This happened really recently.
Yes.
Toby Marriott is on the podcast, 1 hour long, extremely jet lagged. He's probably asleep, but pumped him with a lot of caffeine. That episode drops in 5 days on Friday from whenever this episode airs. And you can subscribe right now and check and wait for that. And a lot of other really cool episodes coming down the road as well. So excited for that. Now is a great time to check out our Patreon, check out our Sendwave stuff. Sendwave details are in the description below. You get $20 off for your first transaction. Sendwave is a great money transferring app. And that's the way how we roll on Backward Point. We put money back into our viewers and listeners' pockets. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Congratulations again. South Africa, commiserations to Australia. But really, I mean, Pat Cummins came on the post-match presentation of Bashar, happy, smiling. Yeah, I think we need to change the face in Australia. Somebody fierce and sledging all the players again. I kind of missed that. It's just been a great time. The new WTC cycle starts literally in a few weeks again. And then the ball rolls all over again. Anyways, Backward Point out. Thank you guys for listening in. Cheers.
Cheers.